My name is Lisa Brooks, and I'll never forget the day my mom told me to step out of the family picture because I didn't fit the vibe. I was 14, standing on the plush green lawn of our Atlanta suburb home, the sun warm on my face, the air thick with jasmine from the neighbor's garden. My mom, Lydia, was fussing with her tripod, her phone angled just right to capture her new family, her husband, Nolan, and his kids, Avery and Mason. I was in my favorite denim skirt, the one I doodled little stars on with a Sharpie, clutching my sketchbook like a shield. "Lisa, honey," Lydia said, not even looking at me. "Just step to the side for this one. We need a clean shot." Her voice was casual, like she'd asked me to grab a soda. I froze, my sneakers sinking into the grass, my chest tightening as Avery smirked and Mason adjusted his baseball cap. Lydia snapped the photo, her smile perfect for the camera, while I stood there, invisible, trying not to let the tears spill. That night, I skipped dinner. The smell of lasagna wafted upstairs, but I couldn't face their laughter, their clinking glasses, their easy chatter about Nolan's latest football coaching win. I locked myself in my room, the walls bare where my sketches used to hang. I opened my sketchbook and drew, a girl standing alone under a sky full of stars, her outline bold, her face unapologetic. I wasn't drawing for them anymore. I was drawing for me, for a life where I belonged, where no one could crop me out. Growing up, I wasn't always invisible. When it was just me and Lydia, after Dad passed away, we'd eat peanut butter sandwiches on the couch, laughing at old sitcoms. I was 8 when he died, and sketching became my way to hold on to him, his smile, his hands, the way he'd hum while fixing his old truck. But when Lydia married Nolan, everything changed. Nolan was a high school football coach, loud and charming, with 2 kids who filled our house with noise and energy. Avery was a cheerleader, all confidence and glossy hair. Mason was a baseball star, always tossing a ball in the air. Lydia called them the spark we needed. Suddenly, our quiet nights were replaced with their soccer games, dance recitals, and beach trips I wasn't invited to. My sketches, the ones I'd spent hours framing, vanished from the hallway, replaced by photos of Avery's cheer trophies and Mason's MVP plaques. Lydia never explained why. She'd just say, "Lisa, you're too sensitive," like my hurt was a flaw I needed to fix that I tried to fit in. I'd sit quietly at dinner, nodding as Nolan rambled about game strategies, hoping Lydia would notice my straight A's or the way I kept my room spotless. But her eyes were always on Avery's latest Instagram post or Mason's new cleats. One Christmas, they got matching Patagonia jackets. I got a pack of pencils with Mara written on the box. Lydia smiled and said, "You love drawing, don't you?" I wanted to scream, to ask why I didn't count, but instead I nodded, clutching those pencils like they could redraw my place in her world. The exclusion didn't stop at photos. It seeped into every corner of our house, like damp rot you don't notice until the walls crumble. By the time I was 15, Lydia's social media was a shrine to her perfect family. She'd post about brunches at trendy Atlanta cafes, hashtag family vibes, with Nolan, Avery, and Mason grinning in coordinated outfits. I was either cropped out or stuck in the background, blurry, mid-blink like an afterthought. One evening, I worked up the courage to ask her about it. She was sprawled on the couch, editing a photo of Avery in her cheer uniform. "Mom," I said, my voice small, "why am I never in the pictures?" She sighed, not looking up. "Lisa, don't make everything a drama. You're just not photogenic like them." Her words hit like a slap, but she kept scrolling, like she hadn't just erased me. Holidays were brutal. One Thanksgiving, Avery and Mason unwrapped AirPods and new bikes, their laughter filling the dining room. I got a clearance bin sweater, 2 sizes too big. Lydia handed it over with a distracted, "You like cozy stuff, right?" I nodded, my throat tight, while Nolan ruffled Mason's hair and said, "Next year, we'll get you that pitching machine." No one noticed I didn't touch the turkey. I started dreading those gatherings, the way Lydia's smile never reached me, the way she'd pose them for photos while I cleared the table. But there was one place I wasn't invisible, my grandma Evelyn's house. Evelyn, Lydia's mom, lived in a cozy bungalow on the edge of Atlanta where the air smelled of lavender and the porch creaked under wicker chairs. She was a retired art teacher, her hands always smudged with charcoal, her gray hair pulled into a loose bun. She called me Star, a nod to the sketches I drew of night skies. "You've got your dad's soul," she'd say, handing me a mug of peppermint tea. He saw beauty in everything. Evelyn never asked me to explain my quietness. She just saw me, and that was enough. One weekend, when I was escaping another of Lydia's family fun days I wasn't invited to, I showed up at Evelyn's with my sketchbook. She caught me drawing a logo for a made-up music festival, all swirling lines and bold colors. "Lisa," she said, sitting beside me, "have you ever thought about graphic design?" I shrugged, unsure what that even meant. The next week, she signed me up for a free workshop at the local library, driving me there herself in her old hatchback. "Don't let anyone dim your light, Star," she said as we pulled up. "You're meant to shine." Those workshops became my lifeline, learning Photoshop, playing with fonts, creating posters that felt like pieces of me. Lydia never asked where I was going. She'd just hand me a grocery list and say, "Make yourself useful while I take Avery to her pageant." Once, she gave me a $5 bill for a $30 list and rolled her eyes when I pointed it out. "You're always at Evelyn's anyway," she said. "She probably gives you cash." That was when I realized I wasn't her daughter anymore, just a loose thread in her perfectly curated life. Evelyn's bungalow became my sanctuary. Every weekend, I'd escape there, my backpack stuffed with my sketchbook and a cheap tablet I'd saved up for with babysitting money. Her living room was a riot of color. Canvases she'd painted in her 20s, thrift store rugs, and shelves crammed with art books. She'd sit with me, her glasses slipping down her nose, and watch me sketch fake ads for coffee shops or book covers for stories I'd never write. "These are stories, Lisa," she'd say, tapping my tablet. "You're telling the world who you are." She started saving my work, sliding each printout into a leather binder she called Lisa's Portfolio of Dreams. I laughed it off, but seeing my sketches organized like they mattered made my chest ache in a good way. Evelyn didn't just encourage me, she acted. One afternoon, she handed me a flyer for a digital design course at the Atlanta Community Center. "It's time to take this seriously," she said. When I told her Lydia wouldn't pay for it, she waved me off. "I've got it covered, Star." She'd used her pension to enroll me, even arranged a ride with a neighbor so Lydia wouldn't notice. Those classes were a revelation, learning to turn my doodles into sleek logos, my daydreams into branding pitches. I'd come home buzzing, only to find Lydia planning Avery's cheer banquet or Mason's baseball fundraiser. She never asked about my classes. Once, I left a poster design on the kitchen table, hoping she'd notice. She used it as a coaster. The deeper I dove into design, the more I felt a plan forming. Not revenge, but escape. I journaled late into the night, sketching ideas for a life where I wasn't an afterthought. Evelyn fueled that fire. "Someday, you'll show them what they overlooked," she'd say, her voice steady like she could see it already. One evening, while we were eating her homemade peach cobbler, I told her my school counselor mentioned art colleges. I was scared to hope, knowing Lydia would scoff. "Design's not a real job," she'd said once, when I mentioned it over dinner. Evelyn didn't flinch. She stood, disappeared into her bedroom, and returned with a sealed envelope. "Your dad left a little something for your education," she said, sliding it across the table. "I've been adding to it. It's yours for college." I stared, my fork trembling. It was a trust fund, enough to cover tuition if I got scholarships. "You're going, Lisa," she said, like it was non-negotiable. For the first time, I believed her. High school was a blur of feeling unseen. Lydia had mastered ignoring me. If I got an A, she'd nod like I'd vacuumed the rug. But when Avery made the honor roll, she'd throw a party and post it online with captions like, "Proud Mom Moment." Mason's home runs got framed photos. My art awards got a "That's nice, honey." They went on family trips to Tybee Island or Gatlinburg, leaving me behind with excuses. "You don't like the beach, Lisa," or "The cabin's too small for everyone." I stopped asking to go. Instead, I'd pack my tablet and head to Evelyn's, where I could breathe, create, and dream of a life where I wasn't just the girl who didn't fit. The day I got my acceptance letter to Savannah College of Art and Design, I felt like I could finally exhale. It came in a thick envelope, glossy and official, promising a full scholarship to their visual design program. I clutched it in Evelyn's kitchen, tears pricking my eyes, while she hooped and pulled me into a hug. Lydia didn't even notice the envelope on the counter. She was too busy planning Avery's prom send-off. I left for college the day after graduation. No fanfare, just Evelyn helping me pack my thrift store suitcase into a Greyhound bus. "Make them see you, star," she said, slipping a sketchbook into my bag. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. College was where I became a person. My roommate, Zoe, was a whirlwind of glitter nail polish and loud playlists, dragging me to art shows and hyping up my designs like they were masterpieces. One night, she showed my logo sketches to a friend who ran a boutique in Savannah. That led to my first freelance gig designing their spring lookbook. I stayed up late, tweaking fonts and colors, pouring my heart into every pixel. When the boutique owner paid me $200 and said, "You've got something special," I felt like I'd won the lottery. That gig led to more: flyers for local cafes, branding for a startup bakery. By sophomore year, I landed a part-time job at an Atlanta ad agency, commuting on weekends. Lydia thought I was waitressing. I didn't correct her. Every project felt like a step toward the life I'd sketched in my journals. I worked weekends, interned at a brand consulting firm one summer, and built a portfolio that made my professors nod with approval. Evelyn kept every draft I sent her, adding them to my portfolio of dreams. She'd text me photos of the binder, now bursting with printouts, with captions like, "My star's shining." Meanwhile, Lydia's Instagram was a carousel of family brunches and beach trips, captioned "Family First." I wasn't in a single frame. It stung, but I was too busy building something real to dwell on it. By my senior year, I was juggling freelance clients and a capstone project that caught the eye of a recruiter from Vantage Creative, an Atlanta marketing firm known for launching big fashion and lifestyle brands. Their creative director, Marcus, saw my work at a national design conference and emailed me directly. "Lisa, your storytelling through design is electric. Let's talk." I graduated summa cum laude, with job offers waiting before I crossed the stage. I took the one with Vantage, moved into a tiny loft in Midtown Atlanta, and started climbing. From junior designer to art director in 3 years, I poured my heart into campaigns that ended up on billboards, in magazines, everywhere but Lydia's feed. I bought Evelyn a new easel for her birthday, took her to a Broadway show in New York, and adopted a scruffy mutt named Biscuit who chewed my sneakers but made me laugh. Lydia didn't call, didn't text, didn't know. I was building a life she couldn't crop out, but deep down, I still wished she'd see it. One morning, as I sipped coffee in Vantage's break room, my assistant, Claire, burst in, her eyes wide. "Lisa, Channel 5's morning show just confirmed you for their Rising Creative Star segment next week." I nearly choked on my latte. Me on TV? The girl who'd been told to step out of a photo was about to be beamed into living rooms across Atlanta and beyond. The segment aired on a crisp Monday, the studio lights warm, the anchors all smiles as they introduced me as Lisa Brooks, Atlanta's design prodigy. I talked about storytelling through branding, how a logo could carry a whole world of emotion. They flashed my college sketches on screen. Evelyn had sent them copies, of course, and the comments poured in online. Inspiring. She's going places. My phone buzzed with notifications, but none were from Lydia. I'd risen to creative director at Vantage by then, leading campaigns for brands that lit up Times Square and Vogue's pages. I'd bought a small condo in Decatur, painted it in colors that made me feel alive, and hung my own art on the walls. Biscuit had a bed by the window, and Evelyn's visits were the highlight of my week. She'd bring peach preserves and critique my latest designs like we were back in her bungalow. Lydia, though, she was still posting her filtered family selfies, Avery's pageant crowns, and Mason's baseball highlights, acting like I didn't exist. I'd stopped expecting her to care, but when I saw her latest post, grateful for my crew, with a photo of her, Nolan, Avery, and Mason at a lakeside cabin, It still twisted the knife. Then, 3 days after the Channel 5 segment, my phone pinged with a message from Lydia. "No, congrats. No, I saw you on TV. Just, Lisa, my 50th birthday is next month. We're hosting a brunch at the Garden Room. Very upscale. Be there, 10:30 sharp. Dress appropriately." I stared at the screen, a laugh bubbling up, not bitter, just disbelieving. After years of silence, she thought she could summon me like I was still the kid she sidelined? I showed the text to Evelyn over dinner at her place, her lavender-scented kitchen warm and familiar. She raised an eyebrow, stirring her tea. "What's your move, Star?" I grinned, an idea sparking. "I'm going," I said, but not for her. I spent the next week planning, not out of spite but clarity. I booked a gift, a luxury wine tour in Napa Valley, complete with a private villa and vineyard dinners. It was the kind of thing Lydia would flaunt online, but I wasn't buying it for her. I wanted her to see what she'd missed, to hold the weight of her choices. Evelyn laughed when I told her, shaking her head. "You're a force, Lisa." I shrugged, petting Biscuit. I just want her to know I'm not invisible anymore. The brunch was my chance to close a chapter, not for revenge, but for me, to walk away knowing I'd built a life brighter than her filters could ever capture. Lydia's text sat in my phone like a stone, heavy but unmoving. The Garden Room, 10:30 sharp. Dress appropriately. "No, I'm proud of you. No, I saw your segment." Just a command, laced with the same old expectation that I'd fall in line. I could have ignored it, but something in me wanted to face her, not to beg for her approval, but to show her I didn't need it. I'd spent years sketching a life where I wasn't the girl on the sidelines, and now, with my name on billboards and my face on TV, I was ready to step into her frame and walk out on my terms. The Garden Room was pure Lydia, Atlanta's hotspot for people who wanted to be seen. I pictured her there, surrounded by her curated crew, posting about her milestone birthday while sipping overpriced mimosas. The invite wasn't about me. It was about what I could bring to her image now that I wasn't just the quiet kid she could crop out. I'd seen her do this before, latching onto Avery's pageant wins or Mason's sports trophies to boost her social media clout. Now, with my Channel 5 feature making waves, she wanted a piece of my shine. I wasn't angry, just clear. This brunch wasn't a reconciliation. It was a transaction that I told Evelyn my plan over coffee at her bungalow, the morning light filtering through her mismatched curtains. "I'm bringing a gift," I said, sliding the Napa Valley wine tour certificate across her table. Her eyes widened, her spoon clinking against her mug. "Lisa, that's thousands of dollars." I nodded, sipping my coffee. "It's not for her. I want her to see it, to know what she could have had if she'd seen me." Evelyn's laugh was soft, her gray eyes twinkling. "You're not playing fair, Star." I grinned. "I'm playing honest." The weeks leading up to the brunch were a blur of work, finalizing a campaign for a national fashion brand, late nights tweaking mock-ups, Biscuit curled up by my desk. But every spare moment, I thought about that day. I didn't want to show up loud or flashy. I wanted quiet power, the kind that hits harder because it doesn't scream. I chose a sleek navy dress, simple but sharp, with a silver bracelet Evelyn had given me years ago. No logos, no fuss, just me, unapologetic. I practiced what I'd say, not to hurt Lydia, but to free myself. I imagined her face, the way she'd blink when I spoke, the way the room might still when I walked away. Evelyn called the night before, her voice warm through the phone. "You don't owe her anything, Lisa. Remember that." I nodded, though she couldn't see me, petting Biscuit as he snored on the couch. "I know," I said. "This is for me." And it was. I wasn't going to beg for a place in her picture. I was going to show her the one I'd painted myself, a life full of color, purpose, and people who saw me. The brunch was just the frame for my exit, and I was ready to step out of her story for good. The morning of Lydia's brunch, I woke up with a calm I hadn't felt in years. I drove to the Garden Room, Atlanta's skyline glinting in the distance, my navy dress smooth against my skin, the Napa Valley certificate tucked in a small velvet box in my purse. The restaurant was everything I expected: glass walls, cascading flowers, and waiters carrying trays of pastel cocktails. The hostess led me to a private patio where Lydia held court at a long table draped in white linen. Nolan sat beside her, laughing too loud, while Avery scrolled her phone and Mason tossed a stress ball. A dozen others, neighbors, colleagues, filled the seats, all dressed to impress. Lydia was in a glittering emerald dress, her smile as polished as her Instagram feed. When she saw me, her eyes flickered, like she hadn't expected me to show. "Lisa, you made it," she said, her voice syrupy but sharp. "You could have worn something brighter." I smiled, taking a seat at the table's far end, the velvet box heavy in my purse. The brunch unfolded like a scripted show, small talk, clinking glasses, Lydia gushing over Avery's new modeling gig and Mason's college scholarship. I sipped my water, watching her perform, her laughter louder when she knew people were looking. Then came the gifts. Avery handed over a custom charm bracelet, sparkling under the patio lights. Mason gave a designer scarf, which Lydia draped over her shoulders with a theatrical gasp. Each present got applause, her friends cooing like they were at a gala. When it was my turn, the table went quiet. I stood, walked to Lydia's end, and placed the velvet box in front of her. "Happy birthday," I said, my voice steady. She raised an eyebrow, opening it with a skeptical smirk. "What's this, Lisa?" "Some minimalist art thing." The table chuckled, waiting for her cue, and I leaned in, just enough for her to hear. "It's a luxury wine tour in Napa Valley. Private villa, vineyard dinners, the works." Her eyes widened, but before she could speak, I continued. "I was going to give it to you, but you've made it clear you don't want me. Just what I can offer. You told me I didn't fit your picture, so I built my own. And it's better without you." I slipped the certificate back into my purse, her face paling as the table froze. Even Avery stopped scrolling. "You don't get to claim me now," I said, straightening. "I'm not your prop." I turned and walked out, the patio's chatter fading behind me. Lydia's voice called after me, sharp and desperate, but I didn't look back. My car was waiting, the engine humming as I slid inside, my hands steady on the wheel. For the first time, I didn't feel like the girl on the sidelines. I felt whole, like every sketch, every late night, every tear had built this moment. I drove to Evelyn's, the certificate still in my purse, knowing exactly who deserved it. Lydia could keep her filtered photos. I had a life that was real, and I was done letting her blur me out. The days after the brunch were a storm of messages from Lydia. "Lisa, you overreacted," one said. "We're still family," said another, followed by, "Avery's starting a vlog. You could help with graphics." Each text was a grab for what I could give, not who I was. I blocked her number, her socials, everything. But she didn't stop. One evening, she showed up at Evelyn's bungalow, her eyes red, her voice loud with fake tears. "How could you humiliate me like that?" she demanded. Evelyn, calm as ever, stood in her doorway, her gray hair glowing under the porch light. "You lost her years ago, Lydia," she said. "Don't act surprised she's done begging." The door closed, and Lydia's car peeled out. I watched from the living room, Evelyn's hand on my shoulder, and felt something settle inside me. Peace, maybe, or just the quiet of knowing I didn't need her anymore. That night, I sat on Evelyn's porch, the Atlanta skyline twinkling in the distance, biscuits sprawled at my feet. I pulled out the Napa Valley certificate and handed it to her. "This is yours," I said. Her eyes widened, her fingers tracing the paper. "Lisa, this is too much." I shook my head, taking her hand. "You saw me when no one else did. You kept my sketches, paid for my classes, believed I was enough. This is what mothers do." She cried then, her face soft in the moonlight, and I let her. For the first time, I felt full, not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet kind, like coming home after a long day. Evelyn booked the trip a week later, sending me photos of her sipping wine under California stars, her smile brighter than any filter Lydia could dream up. MY life kept moving. Vantage promoted me to Chief Creative Officer. My campaign splashed across national magazines. I bought a bigger condo, with a studio for my art and a yard for Biscuit. Evelyn moved closer, her bungalow now a short drive away, where we'd spend Sundays painting and laughing over her terrible puns. Lydia kept posting her family photos, calling me ungrateful to anyone who'd listen. But her words didn't reach me anymore. I'd built a life that didn't need her frame, a life of bold lines, bright colors, and people who saw me for me. Looking back, I don't hate Lydia. I feel sorry for her, chasing a picture-perfect life that never quite fits. She missed the real story, mine. The girl she told to step out of the photo built a world where she's the centerpiece, surrounded by love she can't crop out. I owe that to Evelyn, to myself, to every late-night sketch that kept me going. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm the artist of my own life, and it's more beautiful than any snapshot she'll ever take. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through the shadows of being unseen, the fight to find my place, and the triumph of painting my own picture. If my story hit you in the heart, made you angry, made you cheer, made you feel seen, hit that subscribe button and join us. Every story we tell is a canvas, painted with struggle, heart, and new beginnings. Keep drawing your own truth, and I'll meet you in the comments, where we'll keep building lives too bright to be ignored.